Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say, call halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. That's all praises to the Most High and His Son, who the word ignorantly called Jesus Christ. Now, today I just wanted to get into a quick precepts on self worship and idolatry. And as far as celebrating birthdays and things of that nature, and just glorifying yourself when you should be glorifying the Most High. So, this is Leviticus 18 and verse 2. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. So this is just pretty much just expounding on the fact that, you're supposed to give all praises to the Most High, your God. You have a God. You cannot self-worship yourself and pretend and making yourself your own God or your own special entity when the Israelites we deal with a building of our nation, not really building of self-worship and thinking that it's all about you. You know what I'm saying? So, and going into birthdays and things like that, that's self-glorification, which is not, which is against the Most High. So this is Genesis chapter 40 and verse 20. And it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. So this was a custom that the heathens kept, even at the beginning of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? They kept these things thousands of years before, but that wasn't a custom that our people kept. Clearly it says right here, it was Pharaoh's birthday, so he will always have lavish feasts, lavish banquets, and things of that nature. And we know that the Israelites, we take on other people's customs. That was one thing that we always did what the heathens do, when the Most told us not to do not what the heathens do. But for some reason we always wanted to be like them. Even in the Greek captivity, the Roman captivity, the Babylonian captivity, we always wanted to be like the other nations. So this thing extends back from far beyond that we could even think. You know what I'm saying? So our people need to come out of that mindset of just having, celebrating your birthdays and having this self-idolatry worship type of thing, when that's actually a pagan custom. That's actually a pagan tradition. This is the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 6 and verse 7 in the GNT. Each month when the king's birthday was celebrated, the Jews were compelled by brute force to eat the intestines of sacrificial animals. Then during the festival in honor of the wine god Dionysus, they were required to wear ivy wreaths on their head and march in procession. So this is the Greek, when we was in our Greek captivity, when we were being Hellenized. The so-called king at that time, on his birthday, we were compelled by brute force. We were forced to eat the intestines of sacrificial animals, when we all know that's unclean. We can't do those things, but we were being Hellenized to the point where we left our customs. We didn't know who our God was. We were being assimilated into a pagan god and worshiping their gods and celebrating their holidays. And the other precepts that I quote shows that the king will always glorify himself as a god, or glorify himself as a power structure, or somebody who you need to worship him every month. You know what I'm saying? And bring sacrifices to him and worship the day that he was born. And that's idolatry as well. You know what I'm saying? So when we take on these customs today, as far as like buying candles, Christmas, birthday cakes, and renting out these big banquet halls and buying your best outfit, and eating the best food that day, and you want to do everything you could do, that's idolatry. You're not giving all praises to the Most High. You're giving praises to yourself and making yourself feel like, okay, the day that you was born is a special day, when the day that you were born was not a special day. You know what I'm saying? Because we see in the book of Job, he wanted to die. He said, "Cursed be the day that I was born." So that day, because this life that we go through is hard bondage. It's better to be dead than to actually be alive. You know what I'm saying? The scripture says so. This is just another precept proving that the birthdays that we always had to celebrate other people's birthday. It was a pagan custom that we were into. All right. This is the book of Matthew chapter 14 and verse 6. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them, and it pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she said, being instructed of her mother, Give me here John the Baptist's head in a charger. So we see here around on Herod's birthday, he gave a wish to this whore, you know, and she wanted John the Baptist's head in a charger. And the king, made a decree that he wanted John the Baptist's head, that and then he was beheaded. So our forefathers was being killed during the time that it was the other pagans' birthday. This is what they was doing to us. Nowhere in the scripture said that we did these things, or that was part of our culture. That was a part of our tradition. That was a part of our lifestyle, was to self-worship. We know that we had to glorify the Most High before anything, before even yourself, before your mama and your daddy and your kids. You know what I'm saying? So, and one of our major forefathers in the Bible, one of our brothers, John the Baptist, his head was cut off and placed on a charger, during, the time of this Herod's birthday. So, we should not be celebrating these things, because when you celebrate birthday, think about your forefathers. Think about what they did in these times, and think about the birthdays that the other pagan people were celebrating, and know that that was a part of your custom. Before we came over here from the shores of Africa, we wasn't celebrating birthdays. It was no such thing as a birthday cake, as a wreath around your head, and you blowing candles out, making some crazy wish that never comes through. So, you have to just remember the days of old. Go back in your past and see what your forefathers did, what your culture was, how we did things, and not following the ways of the pagan gods and pagan traditions and pagan customs. We got to come out of that. So let's look up the word idolatry and the etymological word idolatry. It says worship of idols and images. An old French idolatry, from Vulgar Latin idolatria, contraction of late Latin idolatria, from the ecclesiastical Greek idolatria, worship of idols. So clearly, this tells you the word idolatry is you worshiping idols. And when you worship yourself on that day, you're pretty much making yourself an idol. And you're not worshiping the Most High God. A lot of these people who celebrate their birthdays, we know for a fact that they don't keep none of God's high holy days. So you put yourself before His decree, all of His things that He said for us not to do. You put that first. But the things that He tell us to do, as far as keeping the Passover, the Tabernacles, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Shabbat, keeping the laws, not eating certain unclean meats. You know what I'm saying? Keeping your beard in your face, woman being in order. You put those things last, and you put yourself first. And then when sudden destruction comes to you, when things happen bad in your life, that's when you run to the Most High and say, oh, okay, well, God forgive me, or God, I'm sorry that I did that. But it's like, no, you made yourself your own God. So get yourself out of your own bind. You know what I'm saying? So, keeping birthdays, those are all a different form of idolatry. It's all a different form of you self-worshiping yourself and putting yourself above everything and everyone, when that's not good. And we follow these customs today from these certain rappers. We see these people on Instagram, like Lil Baby and Rick Ross, when they have their little birthdays, so-called birthday, they go all out. They do things that they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on themselves, on that day, buying each other big fancy cars, and and getting a whole new wardrobe, as you can see here, and doing all this wild stuff. You know what I'm saying? Look at this. This is idolatry. This is self-worship. Let's just get into that real quick. Well, nothing pops up here, but you get the point. This is all idolatry, man. All this type of stuff right here. Look at this. Stormy. Stormy is Kylie Jenner and I think Kanye West baby and Kim Kardashian baby. And these celebrities go all out, man. They worship themselves, Check this out. They don't put the Most High first. The Most High is the one that set you up to do these things and have this type of money and fame, but you put yourself first. You think it's all about you. You know what I'm saying? So we got to come out of these things, man. Even the book of Job, it foretells about what he was going through. So this is the book of Job, chapter 1 and verse 13. On one day, when Job's son and daughters were feasting and drinking wine in the oldest brother's house, a messenger came unto Job. So Job's kids were feasting and drinking wine at the eldest brother's house. So let's scroll up a little bit above and see what they were doing. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays. You see that? And they would invite their three sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of fasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. So why would Job want to purify his kids? Because they was wicked as hell. They were into idolatry, into self-worship. And Job wasn't into that type of stuff. So that's why he had to make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed their God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. So whenever his kids would go off, he would make sacrifice and pray for them. You know what I'm saying? And we know what happened throughout the story of the book of Job. You know, all of his kids were killed. You know, house came down, killed everybody. So, you know, like I said before, you know, these are things that we just have to go into and, you know what I mean, look at and understand these scriptures and see what was going on in that time period. How did our forefathers react to self-worship, you know? Or worship any idols for that nature. You know, so you know, but it's a plethora of more scriptures that talks about birthdays and different kings and idolatry and self-worship and things like that, you know? Certain kings in the Bible who will glorify themselves, and certain cities and countries, most I would destroy that country just because they would look at themselves as God, look at themselves like they was the number one, you know, on the face of the earth, when the Most High is the one that set you up to do that. You know what I'm saying? So when you get big-headed and think it's all about you, and you want to worship yourself, the Most High will bring you right back down to reality. So, but that's just a quick, you know, video real quick. I hope it was edifying. And I want to say, Kal Halam Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And with that, I say Shalom.